Well, welcome to another edition of Unplugged. It's three losses in a row, but probably varying degrees of frustration or the feeling out of those. The Carlton game was one where it felt like maybe we didn't have the necessary dare or energy at times, and it was on the line and felt like we let that one go. Obviously, a pretty poor performance against the West Coast Eagles. And then this one, it looks like we did a lot of things right, but execution let us down, and not the first time that's happened where it's been poor ball use inside 50 or poor conversion in front of goal. And we probably left that one on the table as well. So it depends how you want to look at it, glass half full or glass half empty. A step in the right direction, but another disappointing loss in front of a poor crowd and a lot of sideshows that came out of it, rightly or wrongly. Introducing you, our assessment of that one. It was a frustrating yet somewhat predictable watch.
Yeah, it didn't go with high expectations. And I think we've sort of maybe had a little bit of hope into thinking that
Hmm.
they're on the back of back-to-back games in Darwin and a couple
Richmond beat
of
them
pretty
there. Yeah.
pretty tough games there. That Marvel, the Dimmer's got no idea where it is. It's a one of those ones you sort of go, look, I'm not gonna be surprised at all we lose, but I wouldn't be surprised if we pinched it. And for a while there, early on, you sort of went, okay, it's not too bad, and then Gold Coast go away, and you're all right. Here we go. This is the tone of the day, but it sort of never really. It didn't feel like they were going to run away at any point, like and totally blow us off the park. It was a bit of all right, we're doing enough, but not finishing, not doing the bits that would get us over the line to win this game. Like was it 8-13 in the end? I mean, flick that around, we win.
Hmm.
You, it's as simple as that. We finish off on the day and we win that game. And you go back to the West Coast and you go back to Carlton, you sort of go, well, there's three games we possibly could have strung together. It's probably three games you look back now and thinking, hey, we could have actually won all three of those. And there was no reason why we should have lost last week. And against Carlton, you go, well, we could have pinched that too if we'd basically done the same thing, if we had finished off the work we had done. And that just seems to be back to where we were about, I don't know, end of 23, start 24 was not finishing, not doing the things that um, rewarded the play that we had. And yeah, we've got back to that point again. So we've got to find out what it was we were doing to finish those games against the Geelong, the Sydney, Carlton last year, and what was different. And if we find that, we probably start winning a few more games. But yeah, what is that secret? What are we doing wrong?
Our annoying thing is, yeah, we've actually converted okay in front of goal this year until this game, and we shouldn't have let it late in the second quarter. We probably shouldn't have let it get away from us to the extent that it did when they got out to a five-goal lead. But then certainly in the third quarter, we should have reined it in significantly. Instead of being 19 points down at three-quarter time, it should have been single digits. And then obviously he kicked the first of the last quarter. There was another crucial turnover in there as well. And got a mate who always messages me during games when the Saints play, and he just texts the little things. And it's always little things here and little things there. We do welcome Shae Williams, new co-host, welcoming along with the secret handshake. Attends every St Kilda game, be it home or away. And we spoke to Michael, who was co-host last week, who was in Perth for the shit show in the West, and Shae was also there, as she has been for all of our interstate fixtures. And Shae, as we welcome you, can you sort of take us through that journey? And it is a journey you do share with the club quite literally every week.
Yes, thanks for having me. As the saying goes, long time listener, first time caller. Um, yeah, since probably COVID. Prior to COVID, we'd probably go maybe three or so interstate games, and since COVID, my mum and I just thought, stuff it, let's do it. Credit card hates me, but like I said, we don't have any other commitments. I don't have children, and I've got a supportive workplace that lets me take time off. So that's my love, that's my passion. And it's more than we were talking about it at the Perth game. And it's also just more than just watching the game. It's you getting with a group of like minded nuffs, as we call it. You have a whole weekend together. it's just really good fun. Even
And of course,
whether we win or lose. I mean, it's always nice to win, but
I guess
yeah.
another one this week. The ground at Alice Springs is quite picturesque with the backdrop, and I think the locals
Mm,
call it the Tree of Knowledge. It's on the far side, which is obviously they always talk about that and all of the beautiful scenery. But behind it, do you
yeah.
have a favourite interstate venue? I guess of all the venues you go to, is there one where you're like, I like to sit up here, I like it as a viewing venue?
I
Yeah.
must admit, both Adelaide Oval and Optus are very good to view at.
Hmm.
Adelaide Oval is pretty good besides the Port fans. They are not well.
No,
And
they're
they
not.
sit next to the opposition cheer squad. I sit with the cheer squad in away games, and they have a real issue with the cheer squad cheering their team. When we beat them, they were just awful. It went beyond just having banter. So that can get a bit hairy, but to watch, it's pretty good. Gold Coast and GWS, you're a bit further away from the scenery. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, I don't mind Adelaide Oval to actually watch the game, and the ease of getting it's a short walk. Even as Michael said last week, getting to Optus on the train, easy in and out. So we could take a thing or two from them of getting on the train and whatnot. So yeah.
Yeah, the Melbourne circus is always difficult. But yeah, Adelaide Oval, another one
Mm.
that's like really pretty backdrops and a lovely venue for footy. But yeah, any Saints fans, just talk to St Kilda fans that were at the '04 prelim. Some absolute horror stories from Port
Mm-hmm.
fans that day.
Yeah.
Some of what went on in that particular game, and even
Mm-hmm.
towards Robert Harvey played his 300th that night, and even
Yeah.
towards him, the level of disrespect. But in any case, 13,000 at Marvel. We know it was obviously a poor crowd, but factoring that in, Gold Coast, they have 14 fans who travel. Sunday twilight, shocking time slot. We've come off a bad loss. I mean, they're not excuses, but one thing I would say to the Gold Coast that Michael pointed out is that that's our lowest ever crowd at Marvel, and it's higher than their average attendance. So you can put that in perspective a little bit. But Shay, what did you make of it? We started relatively slowly, then dominated the
Yeah.
game, but didn't do enough with it.
Just it's just so St Kilda, isn't it?
Mm,
Just frustrating. Just a frustrating watch. But when you think about it, it's actually not as bad as what we thought it was. It was only really a 3-goal loss,
mm,
and they're a top side.
mhm,
So we're only 3 goals away from a top 4 side.
mhm.
I think it was more frustrating in the moments within the game, missed kicks, missed handballs. I'm sure there was a magnet on that left hand side goal
Yeah.
post. I felt like I was watching Tipping Point. Everything was, the magnets were. So I think it was just different points within the game that was frustrating, but on the overall, probably not as bad as what we thought. Not great, but not terrible.
Yeah, I think they improved on things they needed to improve on, and they just didn't finish it when they had
Yeah.
opportunities. Obviously, watching Ben Long kick three in the first half, like, those things are always frustrating. The ex players, Ben King was blanketed by Wilkie until late. So yeah, a lot of it worked well. I thought Filippo showed another step in his improvement, H. I thought Hunter Clark, 10 tackles in his comeback match, some good clearance work. And then obviously the positives were Caminiti and Keeler in defence. So, I mean, there was a lot to dislike about the game, but there was certainly some things where you're like, yeah, that might serve us well.
Yeah, there was certainly times where you go, hey, that's work today. That's work today. We've Kings had the opportunity probably to kick a bag and take the lead in the Coleman. He's been held brilliantly, but going back the other way, they've held Higgins as well, so they've worked out how to do that. It was, yeah, Long has just dominated this year. He has looked fantastic up forward for them and got away early, but we managed to peg him back a little bit later on, and but unfortunately he'd done a bit of that damage already. And there's, yeah, the younger guys looked all right. It wasn't too much ago. That was horrible, or this was horrible, or that. It was just a case of things just didn't work here or there, or it, yeah, it just didn't have that bit of polish that hopefully
Mm.
comes in a few years' time when they've had that experience, they've had that time together, they've had all those games under their belts and learn those little bits that just make that finishing work for us. So there's signs. There's good signs. It's certainly a lot better than what we saw last week. That's for sure. And yeah, it's just getting all that together, and that's what we have to do. We just got to get all those things together, get him working, try to work out how to get that last little bit of, as I'm saying, polish on it. And yeah, once we've figured that out, it's good signs that we can take that forward. And yeah, it's a couple of players that probably we're used to being the ones we rely on a bit. Like Marshall was very well down on what he would usually have output, and so we didn't have that to rely upon. Still came back to it was probably one of his best games for quite some time now. That yeah, it's just a case of just getting them all at the same time. So it didn't happen, and yeah, there's the difference. If they all clicked on the same day, if Higgins comes and gets another three, if Marshall dominates in the middle, then yeah, that's a result. You go, hey, well, that's where we win if those all click. But it seems like at the moment, not everything will at the same time.
It's funny, losses like that can hurt sometimes more than a few others. Obviously, the West Coast loss was terrible. But, so they look like losing all day. The West Coast were, clearly the more efficient of the sides. Had we have won the game, at dead set would have been theft. Whereas this game against the Gold Coast, you kind of walk out thinking that you did enough. You just, a little bit too rough around the edges and felt like more of a wasted opportunity, even though if you were predicting before the game, you would have thought you'd beat West Coast, but maybe this one would be a trickier fixture given where they're at. Shae, in terms of some of the positive takeaways and even some concerns, we addressed obviously the form of guys like Brad Hill and the like the week before, but were there a couple of positives that you take out of it? We'll do votes later, but some key player performances that you would sort of want to emphasise?
Yeah, I want to Hammer. He's my new favourite. I think he's really developing. I think they need to keep him in defence. I think he's really coming into his own. He's never going to be an A grader. He's never going to have the natural talent of a King or anything like that. But he works hard. He's passionate. You can see he takes it out of himself when something goes wrong. He doesn't stop. Even that out of bounds on the deliberate when he copped a lot. If you watched the whole game, like as it was unfolding, that was his best option to do. And I think him and Cal are starting to work better together. So I'll give a shout out to him. There was a few things I said on the wing. There was a few things where they were trying to get out of trouble and it was just the kids that were doing it. There was no seniors around. And even though it might not have come off, I liked that it was 3 or 4 kids trying to work together to get it, instead of waiting for a Steele to come in or a Jones to come in and get them out of trouble. They took it upon themselves to do that, which I really liked. I feel like they're starting to get confidence in themselves to take that next step. Instead of standing behind the seniors, they're coming at the same, either the same level or above the seniors to do those kind of things. I think is really good. I think we're desperate for a forward line as much as, Sharman and Mitch are trying and busting their butts. They're not big, they're not tall, they're not your natural sort of number one full forwards. I don't know. There's been talk tonight that King might be ready by round 18 or something like that. Not sure. I'm not that confident. I'm not that confident on that.
No.
But I don't know what other options we have there, because if we put Mason down there, then we lose that link up on the wing, unless Henry comes back in and takes that sort of wing role. I'm not sure. But I certainly give a shout out to the kids. I think they're really working hard and they're getting there. And yes, they're going to make mistakes and they're going to stuff up. But as I always say, I'd rather them try and have a dip and make a mistake than not try at all.
Yeah, I think that's right. And we've kind of looked at it at the start of the year that, in some of our losses, it was the kids that would often be playing well and the senior players that would go missing, which was the disappointing part that came out of that. I mean, the Crows game at the start of the year and a couple of the other ones since the Giants and the Dogs, a couple of examples that come to mind. But we'll talk about some of the selection stuff a bit later on and what came out of the VFL. Henry showed a little bit more. He wasn't super, but a little bit more. Jack Carroll played easily his best game since coming back from injury. I think his third or fourth game back from that. So we'll talk about all of those things. I guess the Ross Lyon comments in the broader context. Obviously, he's made a tongue-in-cheek comment calling the Gold Coast the AFL's Nepo Baby. Now, that stands up, that statement. Of course, you put that on the back of St Kilda's bugbear about academies and father-son, particularly academies. And someone made the good point that we put a bid on a Gold Coast player last year in the draft. We tried to take him. We called his name out. We couldn't because he was in their academy. But 3 years ago, the rules were changed, so we couldn't get Cam McKenzie, who ended up at Hawthorn under exactly the same ruling. So, and Caroline Wilson's saying tonight that, oh, the Giants and Brisbane and Sydney and the Gold Coast are filthy at St Kilda. It's like, of course they are, because it's self-interest. So we're critical of a policy that benefits them. So of course they're in the shits with us. It's a logical bridge between those two things. And, one thing that also annoys me is the look in your own backyard type statement. I think there are comments now. There's an element of truth in every joke. So Ross has made a tongue-in-cheek comment, but clearly it's come from some degree of belief or some degree of truth. Now, people used to say that around the father-son stuff as well, where they're like, get your own affairs in order. You haven't played finals for this long. You shit. You do this. You do that. I'm like, that's a separate argument. It doesn't take away from the validity of any statement that you actually make. You can sit there and say, okay, St Kilda, you've raised the point, but you've got X, Y, Z wrong with you and go and fix all of that. I'm like, yeah, no worries, we'll do that. But what about what I said? Is it actually correct? I don't like this statement that certain clubs or certain people are qualified to speak on issues, but others aren't because of where their side is on the ladder or something like that. So if Collingwood made that comment, would people be saying, oh, worry about your own affairs? It's like, I don't know where you sit on that, H, but I think that if you want to say something, say it, and no one's got more right than anyone else.
Yeah, AFL media would have loved it. They go, here we go, we got something to write about all week. I mean, how many people, except for obviously who he's talking about, are sitting there going, he's right. And that's the majority of the rest of everyone else saying, yeah, of course it's right. So it's what he does. It's the sort of commentary on what's happening that he gives. He's like, yeah, I'm going to say what I think. He's been in the media. He knows how it works. He generally is able to mold what he thinks into how he wants it to be. So yeah, it's made a talking point, and it's basically put it at the forefront and going, okay, let's have a look, see how good they do get it, sort of thing. That's the next things that are going to probably come from it. How good do the Gold Coast get it? And there's already been a couple of posts put up saying, oh, yeah, they had 12 top 20 picks in the game on the weekend, or things like this. So it's opened up, I guess, a conversation going both ways, saying, oh yeah, look, yes, we're a bit upset with what they get, but look at what they get. So yeah, it's why not keep doing it, Ross? Just if things are a little bit so-so, then yeah, point something out, or just no one's gonna. I don't think anyone's going to disagree with much he says ever. So
yeah, look, there are 16 NGA Academy players, I think, already nominated for the 4 interstate sides. Then you got Tassie coming in a couple of years. It's like your draft system is compromised, and it's not just compromised for us; it's compromised for everyone. So if you, the only issue I would have is that the AFL, the way they normally respond to criticism, is to take it out on the party that's criticising them rather than actually listening to it. So that's my only fear, Shae, is that we'll cop it again with an ordinary fixture or something next year. Yeah.
Well, it's been brewing since Bassett brought it up at the Best and Fairest, hasn't it? And then we copped what we've copped in the first few weeks, and everybody said, well, that's our payback. But just on that, I want to quote someone off Twitter, not my words, but just going off because everybody goes, oh, but you've got Owens and Winhager, Owens was pick 33, Windhager 47, McLennan Category B rookie, who all clubs had access to. Compared to Walter, number 3, Reed 9, Rogers 14, Graham 26, Lombard 9, who no one except the Suns had access to.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, Lombard, we bid on him at 9 and couldn't get him. If anyone had a bid on Owens at 9, they get him and we can't do anything about it. So it's an exactly opposite scenario, really. But yeah, look, I want St Kilda to fight the fight. I don't just want us to sit in the corner and be quiet because the AFL wants us to be a good little boy and just sit there and copy our medicine. Like, just, you've got to stand up for yourself and what you think is best for the competition. But wrapping a bow around the Gold Coast game with votes, allocation of 10, a little bit tricky. I thought we had a lot of solid performers trying to sort of split it all through. I gave 1 vote each to Jack Sinclair, who I thought got better as the game went on and was pretty solid. I gave a vote to Cooper Sharman, who I thought, 3 goals, 3, hit the post a couple of times, took 9 marks, presented really well. And I gave a vote to Mitch Owens, who probably could have got potentially a little bit more than that, a 25 possession, 8 mark, 2 goal, 2 game. But obviously conversion, a bit of an issue for him, but he didn't do much wrong. He played a really solid game. I gave 2 votes to Cal Wilkie, who destroyed Ben King and continues to play well. 2 votes to Jack Steele, his best game in potentially 18 months, maybe even since the final against the Giants. And 3 votes to Nas, most possessions in his career, most kicks in his career. Thought he was comfortably our best player on the day, and he gets the 3. Shae, how did you divvy up your 10?
I've gone 2 for Steele. I know that he won the Saner of the round, but for me, he wasn't the best on ground. I thought it was one of his better games for a long time. But in moments, like, it wasn't a full, complete game. Like, he'd play well for 5 minutes and then he'd go. But I'm probably going to steal a bit of Philip's thunder here, but I think he's playing injured and got a bit of an issue with the club playing clearly injured players. I know he's the captain and he's experienced and all that sort of stuff, but I also think that's exacerbating his decline. I think that's accelerating it. There were times right in front of us that he just stopped. And it wasn't because he didn't care or he wasn't trying. He just physically couldn't do it. He's cooked. And to put out that performance while he's still cooked, he gets a couple of votes from me. So 2 votes for Cal. As you said, destroyed King. King didn't get a touch until Cal wasn't on him late in the last quarter. Again, Gold Coast having a whinge that King was manhandled. He wasn't manhandled. He was just beaten by a much better opponent. Simple as that. And 4 to 2 to Hammer. As I explained earlier, I think he's working really hard, learning the ropes. Like, he was thrown in the deep end last year, and he's sort of learning on the run. And I think we're really starting to see the development now. So give him another 2-3 games, and you'll take another step and another step. And I think him and Wilkie are starting to really work together. And 4 to Naz, clearly the best on ground. He just gets better and better. We need to throw not just the kitchen sink at him, the fridge, the car, the house, the whatever we can get, we got to throw at him. I have noticed, though, that our plan A, B, and C is give it to Naz. Just give it to Naz. Wherever Naz is, give it to Naz, and he'll take off and try and create something, which is great, but we can't just solely rely on him. Our plan just can't be give it to Naz. You can see players looking for him now. Where's Naz? We'll give it to Naz. We'll give it to Naz. But he's also presenting. He'll be all of a sudden there going, give it to me, give it to me. So I think he's now our most important player. I think last year Rowe was, but I think now Naz is our most important player, and we just have to sell, as they say, sell the farm to get him, whatever it takes.
I keep hearing again, it went quiet for a little while, but I keep hearing again over the last week or so a degree of confidence from some people that maybe there is an announcement pending and they're waiting for the right moment, which I think someone said on a good week that we won a game, so that might be a little while. But H, your 10.
Yeah, very similar to what you did. But I've taken one vote and given it to Isaac Keeler. I reckon
Hmm.
he's come in and given a different role and flourished in it. He looked a completely different player, and every time he went near it, he was either got the ball or made a contest and halved it, or at least got it down to like it landed at our feet or something. But yeah, he just looks a completely different player in whatever they were asking him to do on the weekend, and he did everything well, and that was the best thing about it. His possession, his marking, just everything looked good, and hopefully that is a turning point, and he can just take off from there. And yeah, so I was very happy with that. One also to Sharman, could have had a big day, could have been a big day. The 3-3, but yeah, could have been as could if a six straight could have been a match-winning result for him. Won the Mitch, led up, marked a lot of stuff. Again, goal kicking is the issue there. Um, could have been a difference there too. Another one to Sinclair. Um, ran and provided as much as he could all day, but again, just what has in front of him is where the issue is. He can get it as much as he wants, but if there's nothing to kick to, then it's almost pointless him running with the ball and kicking it in. So we really need. That's where what we need to finish is, yeah, finding a target for him to actually be able to hit. Two to Steele, as I said earlier, probably his best game for us for quite some time now. It's probably best game for a couple of years. Couple, as Shay said, couple of quiet patches, but overall, that's hopefully what we're seeing some of that form coming back. Hopefully, you can string a few together now. And I gave two to Naz as well. Um, I, as good as he was, probably as saying he's probably our best option on the day. I just didn't. I didn't think he was that much better than say Steele. That I kept him on the base on the same level. It felt very even on the day and throughout the whole team sort of thing. It wasn't really a player that went, hang on, I'm way better. Just a couple of decisions at times. He's just got that couple of times where he's struggling, or picks the wrong decision, I guess. Like it does all the work and then just kicks the wrong way, or tries to do something just a little bit too much, or get rid of those last little things, and he'll be polished, and will make every set we spend on him worth it.
H, continuing the ball rolling with your Jason Blake.
Um, I was actually going to mention Kevin Eady down back. He's been thrown amongst the walls when you think about it. Really, it's a job that he was given last year at one point when there was a real necessity. Showed a little bit, and on the weekend, yeah, did a great job. It was just couple of times he just got a little bit lost. There was one down basically right in front of me where he was on his man. All of a sudden, he looked away for half a second, and he looked back, and his player was gone, and he was like, "Oh no, I've lost him." And yeah, he took the mark, and it's just those little things that if he just gets right, he could become so valuable for us down there. And yeah, I mean, if we pick up a big defender at some point and that sort of stuff, it's also such a great learning perspective for him, being down the back line, learning the way balls come into the forward line and that sort of thing. If he does move back up the forward line, yeah, it's nice little learning experience for him down there. We did it for Revolt years ago. He started down back and learned the game from there, and then moved up forward, and that's probably where he credits a lot of what he learned early on to that sort of defensive work. So let's hopefully can, yeah, pick up a few of those bits and pieces and just keep building on what he's doing right now.
And Shae, your Jason Blake, the flying under the radar award.
Now, I couldn't think of one, so I spoke to my work colleague, who's also a fellow Saint Snuff, and he's come up with Ryan Burns. I'm not a big on Ryan Burns, but we'll go with what he said. So Ryan Burns, and I do agree with this, he was often always the first one dropped.
Mhm.
He was in and out of the side, dropped. Now he would probably be in the first 5 to 10 picked. I think he's just cemented his spot. What that spot is, I'm not quite sure, but he has cemented the spot. I think he can play back, wing. And as my work colleague pointed out, when players like Sinks and Naz are streaming forward, he often stays back and covers their opponent. So it's a lot of the work that he does off the ball and off the screen. If you're watching it on TV, you don't see the work he does. And he does do a lot of running, often around and around in circles, but he does do a lot of work running, and I think he's really worked on his game. So Ryan Burns for me.
Mine's probably a few contenders that I could have gone with. Honourable mentions to Travalia, career high disposals, getting a decent run at it. Honourable mentions to Boxall coming on as a sub, who I thought was okay. But I want to give it to Filippo just for the steps he took going into the middle, 23 possessions. Started to get a little bit of that in tight class that he showed towards the end of last year. So. I think game three was a nice step in the right direction for him. Another honourable mention to Clark as well for his progress. Shae, your Shannon Noel Award, named after his classic hit, You Got a Lift.
Well, it might be a little bit controversial. It's probably easier to pick a row or a hill, but I think who's got a lift is us, the fans.
Yeah, fair.
Given the crowd on Sunday, and look, I understand it's frustrating, it's disappointing, it's disheartening, it's annoying, but we've got to turn up. We've got to turn up. We've got to support the players. We've got to support the club. If we want MCG games, Friday night games, if we want to play with the big dogs, we've got to turn up. We've got to go full nuff. You know, Richmond can be on the bottom of the ladder and they still turn up. Probably not as much as when they were winning premierships, but they still turn up. We need our fans to do that. We've got to not and stick together. Like, not turn on each other. I know it's hard. We all get pissed off and frustrated, but I really think the fans have got a lift. I think the mood on Twitter was not great, and I think we've got to flip our way of thinking and just be supportive and turn up. And then we can't whinge when we don't get Friday night games and we're getting 8 440s in a row. So that's
Yeah,
my who's got a lift.
yeah. I think we've not noted as being fair weather, so we've got to make sure we don't go down that path. That's for sure. That's a good shout. H, your Shannon Noel.
Yeah, I've got to go a youngish guy, but yeah, Darcy Wilson. I don't know. I don't know if it's a second year thing. We've seen players before with that, and just the disposal sometimes. It's a little bit left to be desired. You had a good opportunity. Was it against? I think it was Freo the other week where he right in front and tried to snap it to kick the goal and missed by a fair bit. And on the weekend there was a couple of kicks where he's tried to, I guess, hit the target, but has missed by a fair margin, and it's just crept into his game a little bit more. And I'm not sure if that handball was the catalyst to him being dragged on the weekend, or the one. I'm trying to remember who it was he actually tried the handball to. I think it was to Higgins, and just missed by a long way. And yeah, it's just something seems to have changed in the way he's playing his game. He's not getting that free running. He's not getting that free possession that we've seen him with. So it's a little bit concerning as to what's been happening with him, because we know his strengths, we know them, but we're not seeing him. So hopefully it might be a little bit of something come back, but at the moment it's looking a bit worrisome. I'm not sure he's been found out or what yet.
Mine's a bit of a left field one. My lift award goes to Jason Heatley. He needs to lift himself off the couch, brother, and head down to Moorabbin and have a chat to a couple of these guys. Mitch Owens with his ball drop, which is a little bit high and a little bit wonky, which obviously means the kick can go anywhere. He does a lot right. There's obviously a few of those other guys around goal as well in that sense. So, Jason Heatley, I loved you. You're a star. But I mean, hopefully someone picks up the phone and gives you a call and says, "Can you come down here and just have a little bit of a chat about technique and some of that sort of stuff." So yeah, that's mine for he. But yeah, a sweep of the awards as we turn our focus towards Melbourne. So we turn our focus to the D's, who have found form. They've won, I think, 5 of their last 6. Beat Brisbane at the Gabba, beat Sydney by 10 goals. So they have back-to-back wins over last year's grand finalists. Um, Different sort of side, though. They're not the land of the giants in the forward line. They've got, obviously, Cozzy Pickett's been on fire, and they've got a lot of their running players up and about. Max Gawn usually gets on top of Rowe, so I wonder whether there's a temptation to pick. I mean, a debutante's probably not going to help that necessarily in Heath, but whether they go with a bit more height, I don't know. But I mean, clean bill of health. No one got injured on the weekend. But in terms of who you bring back in, Butler probably didn't do enough. It would be Carroll or Henry, probably, or Schoenmakers or something like that. That would be the ones putting their hand up. And I guess the second part of that question would be: is there any temptation at all to debut Taru without a run in the VFL?
Um, well, he was obviously destined to come in that weekend he
Yeah.
got suspended, but yeah, it's a bit of a hard one there. You go, look, he's now underdone. He's had 4 weeks out, so it's a probably one you go, look, he's got to go back now. Unfortunately, I think do
You
they
got one game this
play?
week, then the bye. Yeah.
Yeah, they had the bye as well, don't they? So
Same week as us, so he gets one
yeah,
VFL game this week. Yeah.
yeah. So at least I guess he plays on a Saturday or Sunday this week,
Yeah.
and then it's a Thursday the following week. So after the bye, so it's not a massive gap, but it's a
Yeah.
yeah, but it's one game. If he plays well enough, you go, okay, yep, he can come in. If he struggles getting back into it again, you think, okay, well, he's got to probably stay there a couple more weeks and see how it goes. And but yeah, it was just unfortunate the timing. It's just it killed any momentum he may have had coming in because the timing would have been perfect. And yeah, so other change. I mean, Stocker's obviously still out, so he's not going to be in. It would have been probably a handy player this week. Yeah, it's I don't see a lot of change happening. It's not a not a list or not a game that we've just played that was where you go, oh, okay, there was a whole lot of players stood out that you go, they need to be dropped. And going back the other way, there's not a whole lot of players that pushing these players out either. So it, it's always when you go, look, go in with what we were playing with. Maybe have a look at something in in the emergencies we had or something and see whether there's one we want to give a go or something. Or but yeah, go with what we had and then hit the buy and reassess it. That's probably the best way to do it. And I mean, Marshall, every ruckman struggles against Gorn, so it's one of those ones you go, all right, well, try to play to I guess his strengths. It's one of those ones where he'll probably play a bit more of a ruck defensive role sort of thing. He'll play to ruck, get back and help. Yeah, but we can't. I don't think we could need to bring anyone else in. They're I don't think they're really playing a second ruck at the moment at all, are they? It's pretty much gone, and that's it, just himself. So yeah, at any point that he's having a rest, then Rowe can have a rest. That if he doesn't go off, then I guess Rowe doesn't go off either. It's a just let him run with him and see how he goes. We'll hopefully at least level the contest with him, and yeah. But otherwise, yeah, I don't see much happening at the selection table. Maybe one one change here there to see depending on what they want to do, I guess.
I think I mentioned Carroll and Henry in the mix. Garcia probably another one, maybe. 27 touches he had at VFL level on that injury list. So McRae and Stocker, at least it's going down with those. Often the injury list doesn't move, which is frustrating, but 1 to 2 weeks for those two. Paddy Dow only a month away. He'll need a pretty good block in the VFL. Howard a month. Cordy 6 to 8 weeks. Max King still to be confirmed, although as you mentioned, Shae, some hint of a return back end of the year. St Kilda opting not to put anyone on the long-term injury list, which means we won't take anyone in the mid-season draft. So that'll be as it is. You'd think Cordy would have been a temptation, but Shae, can you see them making any changes? Pretty exciting draw for Sandy with Carroll kicking a goal after the siren
Yeah,
from outside 50.
yeah. I'm in two minds. I agree with Aaron. Maybe stay same. Move into the bye. Everybody gets a rest. We reassess, or we bring in Taru and give the fans a bit of excitement. We're all feeling a bit down and a bit low. Give us something to get excited over. He might be underdone, but why not? We need to see the kid. Maybe we need to see the kids. Get Carroll in, get Garcia back in, give Taru a go. Talking about Darcy Wilson, I think he needs a rest. Not in at Sandy. I just think he needs complete management, complete rest. He hasn't missed a game since he was drafted. So I think he's just tired. I think his body's just catching up with the rigors of senior football. So give him 2 weeks complete rest, and I think he'd come back. So, yeah, I'm in two minds. Keep it the same. I mean, it wasn't, yes, we lost, but it wasn't huge, terrible loss. Maybe for continuity, keep everybody in, but also bring some kids in. Give us something to look forward to. Let them show us what they've got.
Yeah, I'm a bit torn to it. I think they kind of are as well. Where, as Ross said, they've turned over the list heavily in the last 2 years, and it's a mix between picking what you think is absolutely your best side, but at the same time blooding your next group that you think contends. So if you do that, obviously guys like Zach Jones probably miss out, and because they're not a part of that next run, or and those types of players. But yeah, you can't throw it all out at once and do that. You've obviously got to have some degree of a mix. Would they want Taru to debut in Victoria?
Yeah.
Would there be any temptation in that where they think, oh, we'll debut him against the Bulldogs on a Thursday night, reasonably big crowd? Or is it better to debut slightly off Broadway and do it in but as you say, no VFL games for that month. It would be difficult, and I think the club would be accused of some degree of desperation if they did that, but we've been accused of plenty of other things in the past, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. But the Carroll had been quiet for 2 weeks, played his best game coming back from injury. Is that enough? Do you need another one? Garcia, was he dropped to do particular things and now he's done them? So he addressed those with Goddard and co. I think Cordy's helping out down there, and he comes straight back in. Do they still need height? Not as much against Melbourne, probably, as against other sides. But yeah, it'd be interesting. At least the injury list didn't grow this week. And it's obviously shortening. McRae's absence was felt, but it'll be a week or two till he comes back. But yeah, it's going to be a fascinating watch. Selection on Thursday night. We won't get the final side. They'll extend that out, and then we'll see what happens. But Shae, when do you head up to up to the Ellis?
Yeah, up Saturday morning. So there's there's about, at this stage, I think I know about 15 or 20 of us all heading up. I mean, there'll be more, but in our sort of circle. So hopefully we'll get a few more to cheer and see a win.
Yeah, lovely ground. Melbourne got flogged there last year by Freo, so hopefully they don't play the ground particularly well of late. But we'll see.
My first time at this ground, so
yeah, it is a very nice one to tick off the list. But yeah, hopefully it's a reasonable day for us. Obviously, a couple of Sunday fixtures that haven't gone too well. It doesn't set up your week particularly nicely for a Monday morning. So hopefully we get a bit of a change this time against an admittedly in-form Melbourne. But of all the sides in the comp, I think Melbourne is almost the one now that we've gone the longest without beating, having knocked off Port the other day. We haven't beaten Melbourne since 2019. Off the top of my head, I don't think we have a run that stretches back that far with anyone else. So it'd be nice to, obviously Brisbane, we beat them in 2021, so they don't go back as far as the D's do. So it'd be nice to break that run because we used to beat them all the time. There was a 12-year period where we beat them like 16 times in a row or something. So yeah, it'd be nice to get one back on them. But thank you all for listening in. Also, Matty Young, we've had a chat with the former running defender, so we'll launch that a bit later in the week as well. So that'll be our latest guest chat. The really fascinating story about the 97 grand final that he missed through injury and that week, but also the strange quirk of him playing for Hawthorn against St Kilda in March and then playing for St Kilda against Hawthorn in April due to the early season trades that they had in 1996. But thanks for tuning in. Enjoy the footy this weekend and go Saints.